Oh, I should be sitting down at first.
Ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Hello, folks. Welcome. Welcome back to another Game of Thrones episode recap. This is season 7, episode 4. Yes, if you just watched episode 3, which hopefully you did, you'll notice that we're wearing the same clothes as we were wearing in the last episode, and that is because we were 2 episodes behind on recording our thoughts and reactions on the show, and so we're doubling down.
We were
recording them at the
behind
same
because
time.
of my fault. I was out of town.
It's not your fault. We just didn't do it.
Well, you couldn't do it because it was Kentucky. And the internet was awful.
Yeah, that's true. What happens is we start off with a little recap where either Meghan or I launch us into warp speed and we give you a really quick rundown of what happened in this episode while the other person does some kind of challenge in the background to see if they can do that challenge the entire time. Today I'm doing the recap, Meghan's doing the challenge, and it's a challenge that she does all the time anyway, so it's going to be an easy one. What are you going to do?
I'm going to dance.
Dance. All right, here comes the warp speed recap.
So everything begins with Bronn and Jaime getting real snarky after the Battle of Highgarden. Bronn had been promised a whole bunch of money and a castle, and he just kind of got the castle to get started with. No, the money to get started with. Not so bad. He really wanted a castle, though. Jaime and him had a little snarky conversation about it, and then things kind of ended there with Jaime sending Bronn off with 2 other dudes to go make sure that they can collect as much food from the farmers as possible, so that everybody could starve to death, because the Lannisters are mean. So then we cut away to Winterfell, where we have Bran, who is in conversation with Littlefinger. Littlefinger's totally out of his depth and has no idea. He's got the knife that was used to potentially kill Bran, or almost kill Bran, way back in season 1 of this show. And he presents it to Bran like it's some kind of token and says, here, this is the knife that started the Battle of the Seven Kingdoms. Bran, of course, knows all this and everything else, and he kind of accepts the knife quietly, just kind of watching as Littlefinger talks. As Littlefinger goes on and on, he mentions chaos and how the world is all in chaos. And Bran says back to him, chaos is a ladder. Now, we watched Littlefinger's face fall. We're not really sure why, but it's because a couple of seasons, a while back, that's exactly what Littlefinger says to Varys while they're standing in King's Landing looking at the Iron Throne, and Littlefinger is looking at it all lustfully, just wanting it, and that's exactly what he says to Varys. Chaos is a ladder. And he's shocked because Bran brought those exact words back up to him, having no understanding of, or having not been there himself. Interesting little spin. Interesting little spin. That conversation is interrupted by Bran's wildling friend coming in, and essentially saying, hey, I've got to go back to my family because the dead are coming. And Bran doesn't really say goodbye to her or thank you or anything like that. He does say thank you, but it's not very heartfelt. She gets angry at him because, her brother died. Hodor died. Lots of people died trying to get Bran safely back to the wall. And Bran's only response is, I'm not really Bran anymore. We touched on this in the last episode, but it was kind of annoying. If you want to watch that episode, click up here in the corner. Okay, then Arya arrives at the castle, and she's stopped by 2 guards. The 2 guards don't believe that she's actually Arya, and so they try to stop her. And eventually she kind of threatens them a little bit and says, if I actually am Arya and you turn me away, imagine what my sister's going to do to you. So they let her in, they tell her to chill, and just sit in one place. She doesn't, she escapes, she goes down to the crypts. They go tell Sansa that this little girl claims to be her sister's running around. She goes down to the crypts to meet her, and they have this beautiful reunion that's really, really sweet. They have a little sister moment. They then go out to find Bran, who's sitting by the tree out in the woods, that kind of old school tree that's supposed to have a soul in it. I don't remember what it's called. But they find him sitting out there pensively branning out in the woods. So they arrive. Bran ends up giving Arya that knife, which she's super stoked about. Sansa has a face full of envy when Bran gives her that knife, and it's a nice little touch. And Sansa tells Arya Bran has visions. And Bran recounts that he saw that Arya chose to come back to Winterfell instead of going to King's Landing to kill Cersei. Again, affirming for everybody on the show that Bran knows everything that happened everywhere and can speak that into people's lives, and it's a nice little parlor trick that catches them off guard. Next up. Daenerys Targaryen is walking down the stairs on her island, Dragonstone. Personal little private island, pretty cool thing to have. I guess you gotta have dragons to have that. When she bumps into Jon Snow, who's standing on the beach at the bottom of the stairs, she says, yo, you should come with me and check out this cave, and you can see where we're gonna be mining all this dragon glass. She follows him. They walk into the cave, they see all this obsidian on the walls, all this dragon glass, and they go deeper and deeper into the cave where there's some cave drawings that were left there by the green children. The children that had been there first. The children who had outlived man. The children who lived north of the wall someplace. They were these magical little fairy creatures. But they had come and drawn on the walls of Dragonstone the story of mining for dragonglass to defeat the White Walkers. Definitely a convenient thing to have within Dragonstone because Daenerys Targaryen didn't really believe the fact that any of that was happening in the first place, but Jon used it as a reason to kind of reaffirm for her this was going on. Her response? I'll fight with you, if you bend a knee. Classic Daenerys Targaryen. So they leave the cave together and immediately kind of bump into Tyrion and the rest of the crew, where Daenerys learns that that the Unsullied attack on Casterly Rock didn't go incredibly well, and that they're kind of stuck there, kind of flanked in. She gets really pissed, so she decides, hey, I'm just gonna take my dragons and I'm gonna go out there and kill everybody. Everybody counsels her against it, including Jon, who pretty much says, yo, you'll kind of be more of the same if you go down that path. She blows everybody off, and she heads out that direction to go kill as many people as she can. So she then flies her dragon all the way over to where Jaime and Bronn and all of them are essentially approaching King's Landing to wreak some havoc. Back to that in a second. Before all that stuff happens, we see Arya get into a little sword fight with Brienne of Tarth. Brienne of Tarth is, of course, a giant swordswoman, incredibly talented, really incredible person, fighting against Arya, who's a little tiny human being with a little tiny sword, and she just dances around. It was a really great battle, and they had a mutual respect for each other. While that was happening, Sansa and Littlefinger were standing up on the balcony, the kind of second level section, watching it all happen with these little smirks and confused glances going on between them. There's something shady happening there, and we don't like it. But Brienne and Arya ended with a really good relationship, which was nice to see. Alright, Theon arrives at Dragonstone. Jon is pissed. He grabs him by the lapel on his shirt and essentially says, the only reason I'm not killing you right now is because you saved Sansa. Okay, interesting things might happen there. So then we cut away to Drogon being ridden around, burning up the Lannister army in a really intense way. Bronn ends up shooting that great big bolt at the dragon, hitting it in the shoulder. It falls from the sky with Daenerys on the back and lands on the beach. After a couple minutes, Jaime rides at Daenerys and the dragon with a spear and tries to stab at Daenerys, but at the last second, the dragon swings its head around to blow fire all over Jaime, and then some unknown stranger comes hurtling out of the sidelines, knocks Jaime off his horse just at the last second, and they both plummet into the water. Now, they weren't that far into the beach, but they sure did sink for a long way, so who knows what that's all about. Jaime's hand is definitely dragging him down, but that's where it ended, with beautiful Jaime and his golden hand dipping down, 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 down into the ocean, into the shallows, really, where he was, and faded into black. That's when the episode ended.
With that, Megan, Megan's a beautiful dancer who's been back here reenacting it all in the background. Can you see?
I don't know if you're able to see any of that.
So that was our recap of season 7, episode 4. Next, we move into the awards segment, where we start to kind of touch on and give away 4 different awards, beginning with the most badass, and then the most likely to die, the All the Feels award, and the biggest twist from the episode. So we'll move right into those next. So that is the
What?
awards.
We have the same note.
That was nice.
All right, so the awards this week.
You sound out of breath.
I was dancing the whole time.
Oh, it's a
on my
lot of
toes
dancing.
the entire
Oh,
time.
sounds like hard work.
It was. So the most badass this week goes to Drogon. Drogon is a dragon, so he would get most badass.
Yeah.
But I think Dany gets in there a little bit too. She's like riding along, and I mean, he just burns everybody up.
It's awesome.
Everybody. Oh my gosh, I was thinking for 2
Everybody.
weeks. Everyone up.
Yep.
I mean, it was incredible. And we haven't seen a dragon fight like this in a long time. Really not much at all.
Yeah.
Not like to this caliber. And so it was really cool to see. That battle scene was pretty epic. And so for that reason of just being able to just plow down the army with his fire, and then Dany holding on the whole time while
That's
he's
pretty
doing
cool.
that. Even as he gets hit with an arrow and he's falling to the ground, she's holding on and he's like screaming a little, but he lands and he's still fighting for her.
So cool.
Is it?
I think it's cool.
It is. It's super cool. And so that's why he gets most badass, Drogon.
The most likely to die is Dickon, who has only been around for 2 episodes. He's like the son of like some other lord. I don't even remember who.
Dick.
Yeah, he's the son of Dick.
Lord Dick.
Kind of, actually, I guess, technically.
What are you thinking? I was thinking Richard.
That's what I was thinking about too.
Yeah.
Dickon, he's just this random character, kind of showed up out of nowhere. He's been in a couple fights. Actually, only really 1 fight now, but he's been around Jaime. He kind of saved Jaime from a Dothraki warrior a little bit earlier. But he's definitely an expendable character. Like, they introduced him for no reason at all. Honestly, I think they gave him the name Dickon just to kind of make fun of the fact that Rickon, the other Stark son, has been disappeared for the entire time and likely won't come back into the show. So I feel like it's just kind of a way for them to poke fun at things. But he's likely just an expendable character that's going to die pretty soon. What about the All the Feels award?
All the feels is going to Arya this week. She got to finally come home, so that was really cool. She was, back in Winterfell, and, she, as Chris mentioned in his recap, she kind of tricked the two men that were guarding the gates and was able to go home and went to where her dad was buried down in the crypts. And so it was just really cool to see her back in Winterfell and to see her being her, continuing to be her spunky self, to still have her list of people that she wants to kill, to show that she is so awesome with a sword and she could fight and stay up with Brienne, who, as Chris mentioned, is an excellent swordsman. So it was very emotional to see her, go back to her homeland with all of these things that she has learned and experienced over the past few years, and to finally be home. And I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens after this.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see her at that point.
It really was. Last and not least, the final award for this episode is the Biggest Twist Award, which we're going to give to Daenerys Targaryen when she's talking to Jon in the cave. Actually, I guess it was after the cave. She had a little consult with Tyrion, who said, hey, look, just let him mine the dragon glass. He'll end up, that's all he's here for. He'll end up being a helpful ally down the road if you just give him this little tiny sign of trust. So Jon ends up kind of finding her out there on one of the winding staircases of Dragonstone, and starts talking to her, and you can see he's just got that stressed out look in his eyes of just needing to get something from her. And she just kind of puts it all to an end by saying, you can mine the dragon glass. And he's totally shocked. He's just kind of like, and
It was too close to what boom.
I know, it was pretty close to what boom. But he was pretty shocked, and it ended up being a cool little relationship building moment for them, which was nice. So that was a nice little twist on Dany's part. Next up. Next up. Up votes, down votes. You want to take the first one?
Yeah. So the first thumbs up goes to the Dothraki army. They were so awesome in this battle scene on this episode. They're riding horses into the water and standing on horses as they're shooting these arrows.
Cool.
And, just fighting and fighting relentlessly, doing things like cutting legs off of horses, doing anything that they can to win this battle for their queen. And they were so fun to watch. We hadn't really seen a Dothraki battle in a really long time, and it was really, really neat to watch that battle. And so, for that reason and their relentless fighting for Dany, we're giving our first thumbs up to the Dothraki.
Kind of a bummer for the Lannisters. They were so close to home, and they were set upon by an enemy they've really never fought before, who is extremely dangerous. The first thumbs down that we're giving out is the just kind of general overall timeline of that experience. Okay, we're just going to say these things as words, and you should probably look on a map, because I think we're going to have a hard time kind of drawing this out on a map here for you. But let's give a quick recap. So Daenerys Targaryen and all of her armies are at Dragonstone. Here. And Jaime and all of his armies... Okay, perfect. Jaime and all of his armies were just at Highgarden.
Which is down
here. Yeah, pretty far away. But they were marching to King's Landing, which is here-ish. Now, Dragonstone is an island here.
So between our fingers,
Huge amount of distance.
Water.
Yeah. Water.
That's it.
There's a huge amount of water here, a ton of land here. This is all land. And it's not close. There's a lot of space here between Highgarden and King's Landing.
Which is over there, yeah.
And then Casterly Rock is over here, on the opposite side of Westeros from King's Landing.
So if someone was, let's say, at King's Landing, they would literally have to go all around Westeros to get to Casterly Rock if they had boats. If they didn't have boats, they could literally just go across. But if they're trying to get to Casterly Rock from King's Landing with boats, they'd have to sail all the way around Westeros.
But remember, this is a country. It's not like just walking across town. This is a big deal. Really big deal. Okay, so what we've got is Daenerys Targaryen, who's up here on her island. Now, all of her ships she gave to Greyjoy so that they could, or Grey Worm, so they could make their way off of the island that they're on and go to
Casterly Rock,
Casterly
which
Rock.
would have to be all the way around Westeros.
Have to be around Westeros. So she presumably had no ships. So in that moment where she learned that the whole experience at Casterly Rock hadn't go well, and she decided that she was going to go take it into her own hands and go attack the army of people outside of King's Landing, she had to have found some way to lift all these Dothraki and several of her advisors off of Dragonstone and then transport them either by ship close to Highgarden or transport them across that little channel in between Dragonstone and the mainland of Westeros, and then go from there all the way down to King's Landing, which was like it's not like a couple minutes. It's a really long trip. It probably was several days. Like, there's no way it was fast. Now, if she was just flying on a dragon, it'd be fast. But they had all those men on horses, and they had like Tyrion and like other people that weren't warriors that could just ride horses for a long time. So that didn't make any sense. And then you had Jaime and all of his men that began the episode at Highgarden, ended the episode pretty close to King's Landing. So theoretically, that took days, if not weeks, to get that far, right? Now, we also had Grey Worm and all of his people, all the Unsullied, over at Casterly Rock, which is like all the way over here on this corner of Westeros, when they were beset upon by Euron Greyjoy, who attacks and burns all their ships. Now, you remember that Euron Greyjoy had just captured a bunch of people on their way from Dragonstone to Dorne, which is like this way. So he...
This way.
This way. So he was like sitting out there somewhere in the ocean, so he captured them, took them back to King's Landing, and then sailed from King's Landing all the way around Westeros to Casterly Rock to go attack and burn all of Grey Worm's ships, even though Grey Worm, his whole storyline was that he was already on his way to Casterly Rock at the same time that the ships were attacked by Euron Greyjoy. So the timelines don't make any sense. They just don't, none of those timelines line up. It's really confusing. So I guess that the story writers either don't have a map of Westeros, which seems like a little bit of a bad idea, or they were just hoping that people like us wouldn't notice. But huge downvote to the writers of this show. It's one of the fastest ways to make it feel like it's not very authentic is to just create this entire world and then just ignore it. Really dumb.
Yeah. Especially last week when we were like, well, where did the Dothraki, how did they get to this epic battle?
And it could have just been like, maybe they did take days to get there. But it sure didn't seem like it. They just didn't tell it in that way. Because then Theon Greyjoy arrived at the beach, and it seemed like the same day. It seemed like hours later, because it was just a couple scenes after we first saw Jon and Daenerys talking. And he asked for Dany, and Jon's response was, we don't know where she is. She's not here.
Yeah.
So dumb.
So our next upvote is what we're calling friend exchanges. There are a couple of little nuggets in there, if you will, of some friendly banter back and forth with a couple of the different characters, just kind of making everybody seem like real people too, and not just these kind of one-dimensional, we're fighting, or we're this way or we're that way. So the first one was between Dany and Missandei.
Missandra? I think it's
said it.
Missandra.
You've said it all night, and we had the video up there. I can't remember what
I
it
can't
was.
either. I think it's Missandra.
Missandei.
Yeah.
Because I always want to say Melisandre.
Yeah.
There's too many people. And then Marcella. There's like so many
There's
people
too
with
many
very similar names. So anyway, Dany and her right-hand woman were talking, and she was concerned about Greyjoy. She hadn't heard, or Grey Worm. She hadn't heard back from him, and she was kind of upset. And she is talking to Dany about it, and basically alludes to the fact that they had,
Coitus.
Yes, they had fun together.
Yeah.
And there's just this little friendly conversation that they're having, and you can tell it's like they go to like being BFFs. Like Dany's like, "Ooh, tell me about it, everything, huh?" And then it's just really cute how they're having that conversation. And then another similar one is when Sir Davos and Jon are talking, and they're kind of talking about, or Sir Davos is trying to talk about how, or trying to bait Jon into talking about how attractive Dany is. And he says, or Jon says something about like how she has a good heart. And Sir Davos says, "Well, I've seen you looking at her heart.
I saw you staring at her
I saw
good
you
heart."
staring at her good heart." And it was really funny.
I love Jon's response is like, "We don't have time for that." Totally embarrassed.
Yeah. So those are some of the upvotes we get for some character building and just some light-hearted banter and conversation when everything is so epic and intense. It's kind of nice to have that other side of the coin where you're getting to know these people. So
It's so fun. Our final downvote for this episode was another kind of storytelling and like writing thing, which was the kind of drawings in the cave on Dragonglass. So in the last episode, episode 3 of season 7, Jon was trying to convince Daenerys Targaryen that the White Walkers are a real thing, the Army of the Dead is the real thing, and they are extremely dangerous, they are marching on the world, and they are worth fighting against right now. And that's a whole lot to convince somebody about who hasn't seen them. Now, we've been saying, off camera to ourselves that, like, doesn't seem like that much of a stretch for people that believe in all these other things, like dragons and the Green Children and Stone Men and, like, all these other things that are kind of legends and, like, kind of hard to believe, to then make the jump to also believe in the Army of the Dead beyond the wall, which is like, it's not an unknown idea, So, a little hard to believe that people weren't able to get behind it. But Daenerys Targaryen was, oh boy, we're only at like 10% battery. I'll have to be fast.
yeah.
Daenerys Targaryen was definitely not into the idea. Didn't really believe it. So when they went down into the cave where Dragonglass was to be mined, there were all these drawings that were left there by people that had come there in the past to mine Dragonglass to fight against the White Walkers the last time, many years before. And they left drawings on the cave to tell the story of it. Super convenient that this was immediately following Jon trying to convince Dany of the whole thing. Super convenient that it's on Dany's island in the Dragonglass caves, and super weird that neither she nor anybody else in her team of people found that it was there or even thought to go explore this great big dark cave on the island, and that was literally just the bottom of the stairs of her castle. Really weird story hole. They were definitely trying to do too much. And to Meghan's point, they could have done this in a way that made so much sense, like maybe Dany took Jon there instead.
Yeah, like maybe she had actually explored her land, which makes more sense that she would have done something like that, and had seen it before, so that when Jon came and was like, there are these White Walkers, she'd be like, interesting you say that, because let me show you something, and then take him down to the cave, be like, I was wondering what this image meant, and now the story makes so much more sense. Like, I feel like that would have been a much more interesting and believable way to bring that up. They didn't hire me to be a writer. So.
They're lost. All right, that's the end of upvotes and downvotes for this episode. We're running out of battery really fast, so we're going to burn through some predictions and then end this thing. All right. Predictions!
That was really bad.
That wasn't.
Couldn't quite get up there. Okay, so our first prediction is... at the end of this episode, we see Jaime, as Chris mentioned, sinking down to the bottom of, well, however deep this water is. And so our prediction is that perhaps he is captured by Dany and by her army. And then, they can either use that as leverage for Cersei, or maybe, when he sees Tyrion and he sees Dany and he sees all of these things that she's standing for. Maybe he'll make a switch. We doubt it because he has such loyalties to Cersei and is so in love with her.
Yeah.
Even though she's crazy, and he's really starting to, or the storytellers are really starting to show us that he's kind of buying into that. And so maybe he'll make the switch or not, but we do predict that he'll be captured. Again, we haven't seen episode 5 yet, and we realize that it is out, so maybe we're completely wrong, but that's our prediction at this point.
Another prediction that is already coming true is that Jorah will be healed and will go on his way towards Dragonstone, which we predicted, I think, on the first or second episode, and we're seeing that happen, which is great. We don't really know what's going to happen beyond that, but we think that's a good possibility. I guess we could touch on this one if you want to.
Well, and we also saw Arya talking about her list of who she wants to kill, and she was talking about Cersei again, and Sansa would love for Cersei to die as well, and so we still predict that Arya will be the one to kill Cersei through all of this. So that's another prediction that we talked about today.
What are your predictions for what you think is going to happen through the remainder of season 7? We only have a couple more episodes to go, and then we'll be almost done with this show. I think we have one more season after this, and then we'll be done, and that's going to be another short season. So what are your predictions of what's going to happen next? What's going to happen with Dany and Jon? Is Jaime going to join the good guys and fight against his sister? What's going to happen next? Leave your comments in the comments below and tell us what you think.
So if you like what you see, just make sure you hit that thumbs up button, that like button, subscribe. We will be doing this for the rest of the show this season and some other shows in the future. So we really are thankful for you guys and watching it, and we love talking about these shows and hearing your predictions and what you think about this season so far. If there's anything else you'd like to see us talk about, any other shows like Chris talked about at the beginning that you'd like for us to do this kind of same thing for, then just comment below and let us know. So if you liked what you saw, please share it with your friends, your family on social media, and hopefully we'll get a lot of people talking about it. So,
that's right.
Because that's what we do.
That's what we love.
That's what we love.
All right, friends. We'll catch you soon with another episode. We'll do the episode 5 of season 7 recap coming real shortly.
We're about to go watch it.
We sure are. All right, wish us luck. We'll talk to you soon. Ready?
Yeah.
So long, folks.